Welcome to the Shorten Anime channel. Today we'll dive into the latest episode of The Great Ruler. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support the channel. The Great Ruler Season 1 Episode 47. The news about the Lu territory holding a 9 territory meeting quickly spread like the wind throughout the entire Northern Spiritual Realm. Moreover, everyone in the Northern Spiritual Realm was astounded by it. The 9 territory meeting, it was known as the most extravagant affair within the Northern Spiritual Realm. Normally, it would only be held when there was an extremely important matter. The last time a 9 territory meeting was hosted within the Northern Spiritual Realm, the 9 territories had decided on their positions of power and boundaries of their domain. Furthermore, it was due to this setup of the 9 territories within the Northern Spiritual Realm had continued until the present time. And now the Liu territory had suddenly called for a 9 territory meeting. Why would they do that? Although many factional forces were in doubt, they could feel a surging and turbulent presence coming from the 9 territory meeting. It was likely that peace within the Northern Spiritual Realm would disappear. Mu territory, within the Mu estate, a serious atmosphere filled the meeting room. Mu Feng's complexion changed as he sat on the seat of honor. At the same time, Mu Chen, Zhou Ye, and a few higher-ups from the Mu territory were present at the scene. Why did the Liu territory suddenly call for a 9 territory meeting? Mu Feng's eyes were sharp. He slowly lifted them up and asked, "What are they planning to do?" Everybody at the scene was silent. The Liu territory's actions were too abrupt. Nobody understood what they were planning to do. The 9 territory meeting, this certainly wasn't something that could casually be hosted. Mu Chen also frowned. His instincts told him that the Liu territory must have some sort of goal. Moreover, this goal should be extremely unfavorable to the Mu territory. The Liu territory acted too suddenly, and it makes me feel a bit uneasy. Should we just ignore them and not participate in the 9 territory meeting? Zhou Ye pondered for a moment before asking, "I'm afraid that wouldn't work. The 9 territory meeting was set as a compulsory obligation that was personally decided by the 9 territories. No matter who calls for it, all of us must attend. If we were to break the rules, there will be no benefit for us." Mu Feng shook his head and said, "Furthermore, if they were coming at our Mu territory, it would be impossible to avoid it, even if we did not go there. Instead, the Liu territory might use a method to alienate us from the other territories." Zhou Yi sighed and said, "What should we do then?" "Gather the troops tomorrow. We will convene the strongest force we can from within the Mu territory and participate in this 9 territory meeting." Mu Feng's hands smashed onto the table as he said in a cold voice, "I do not believe that the Liu territory could eat up my Mu territory in one gulp. Also, please send a message to the territory lord, Tang Shan, and the other territory lords. I believe that they must be feeling a bit uneasy at this moment. If the Liu territory dares to do anything funny, let's see what they are capable of when the remaining 8 territories are against it." Zhou Yi nodded. Although it was unclear what the Liu territory was planning to do, they wouldn't dare offend all of the other 8 territories at once. Mu Chen stared at Mu Feng, who was currently wearing a tense expression. His eyes also became serious. It seemed that Mu Feng could feel the danger from this situation as well. But no matter what, Mu Chen would not let the Liu territory go that easily if they dared to attack the Mu territory. The location of the 9 territory meeting was at a city known as 9 Territory City, located deep within the center of the Northern Spiritual Realm. The previous 9 territory meeting had also been held at this location, and thus this city held the perfect precedent for playing the host. This area was considered neutral territory. It did not belong to any particular force, so whenever a force calls for a 9 territory meeting, they will become the host and entertain the other forces. Normally, this city was not that festive. However, it had instantly been thrust into the limelight after the Liu territory had sent out news about the 9 territory meeting. It was even livelier when compared to the entry competition held by the Northern Spiritual Academy a while ago. After all, only a few people were eligible for the entry competition. Although many would yearn for entry, the notion of victory or defeat would be meaningless to most of them. Therefore, they were really only seeking a kind of fantastic and lively entertainment when they headed there. However, the 9 territory meeting was different. It was a setup related to the Northern Spiritual Realm. Once any kind of turbulence broke out, it would be impossible for all the forces within the Northern Spiritual Realm to avoid it. Thus, it was likely that everyone within the Northern Spiritual Realm would be paying attention to this matter, as it would affect them personally. When Mu Feng and his troops arrived at the 9 territory city, the city was already flocking with people. They could vaguely see numerous forces bring their men and surge within the city in waves. This time, all the elites within the Mu territory were sent out. Not only did Mu Feng lead the team personally, Zhou Ye, Mu Chen, and the other 4 city lords had followed as well. Even Wen Ling, who had recently advanced to a rank 2 spiritual array master, had followed along. Coupled with the hundreds of men, their imposing manner was quite powerful and mighty. And just like that, a commotion broke out through the entire Nine Territory city due to the Mu territory's troops' arrival. Countless forces quickly moved to greet them, while Mu Chen returned the greeting as he laughed. The Mu territory's men stopped when they arrived at the stone temple located in the center of the city. Then, the 4 city lords personally kept them in check as Mu Feng's gaze swept around. Afterwards, he seemed to have noticed other squadrons of elite troops. They were probably brought by the other territory lords. So it seems that those guys were also quite vigilant. Brother Mu! As Mu Feng looked around, sounds of laughter rang out nearby. Mu Feng quickly turned his head around and saw Tang Shan coming over with his most trusted group of men. Brother Tang! Seeing this, Mu Feng quickly headed forward. At the same time, Mu Chen also followed and glanced behind Tang Shan. He was immediately startled. This was because he noticed that Tang Xianer had also followed Tang Shan over. When Tang Xianer noticed Mu Chen, delight emerged instantly within her eyes. She blinked at him in amusement. Mu Feng and Tang Shan quickly grouped up together. They whispered to each other with a serious expression. Why did you come as well? Mu Chen, who was following behind Mu Feng, asked the girl beside him. Dad seemed to place a great importance on the Nine Territory meeting this time. Since I would have been bored if I stayed in the Tang Territory, I followed him out here. Tang Xianer smiled. However, she immediately frowned. She glanced at the surroundings before leaning over to Mu Chen and whispered, I heard that the Liu Territory is planning something. And otherwise, why would they spend so much effort to call for a Nine Territory meeting? Mu Chen smiled and said, although the 9 territories all possess the right to call for a 9 territory meeting, no territory has ever called for it since they established the 9 territories' power structure. Have you heard of the name Liu Jingshan before? Tang Xianer whispered. My dad seemed to speak in earnest about him. Liu Jingshan? Mu Chen's heart jumped as his eyes narrowed. He whispered, Liu Jingshan is Liu Qingtian's father. Back in the day, he was the strongest person within the Northern Spiritual Realm. However, he seemed to have disappeared 3 years ago. Why would your father suddenly be mentioning him? Tang Xianer shook her head and said, I don't know either. Mu Chen frowned. An uneasy feeling filled his heart. Liu Jingshan was the strongest person within the Northern Spiritual Realm back then. His strength was at the Spirit Stage late phase. Moreover, it was said that he had been only a step away from advancing to the 3 Heaven Stage. However, before that could happen, he suddenly disappeared one day. Rumors were spread about how his cultivation had gone wrong and he had died due to serious injuries. Could that old man still be alive? Mu Chen's heart shook. If Liu Jingshan was still alive, wouldn't the Liu territory have 2 Spirit Stage late-phase powerhouses if he came? If he included Liu Zong, there will be 3 Spirit Stage powerhouses. No territory within the Northern Spiritual Realm could fight individually against this obscene strength. Furthermore, the most disturbing fact was that Liu Jingshan already possessed Spirit Stage late-phase strength 3 years ago. If he was still alive? No. If he improved, wouldn't he have advanced to the 3 Heaven Stage by now? Thinking about this point, Mu Chen sucked in a breath of cold air. 3 Heaven Stage. It had not been seen within the Northern Spiritual Realm in many years. If a powerhouse at this stage appears within the Liu territory, no force could compete with them within the Northern Spiritual Realm. Thoughts rapidly filled Mu Chen's mind, and he didn't look good. Seeing this, Tang Xianer secretly stuck out her tongue. She placed her hands behind her back and did not dare to say anything more. When they entered the stone temple, Mu Chen saw Mu Feng looking over towards him. The latter's eyes were quite serious. Beneath that seriousness, there was even a hint of uneasiness. It had been many years since Mu Chen had seen Mu Feng reveal such an expression. It seemed that he too had obtained a bit of information from Tang Shan as well. Within the stone temple, the area was extremely spacious. Numerous important figures were walking around. At the same time, the other territory lords had already arrived and were talking with each other. However, Mu Chen could detect that the atmosphere was a bit unnatural from their laughter sounds. It seemed that this news had already been secretly spread out. Mu Feng sat down on one of the stone seats as well. Mu Chen and Zhou Ye stood behind him. Then Mu Chen glanced at the opposite side. At that location, there was a beautiful woman wearing a red dress, and her smile attracted numerous gazes. Moreover, Muchen was able to see a familiar figure behind her. It was Hong Ling. He had never expected that even she would follow her mother over to this place. Hong Ling smiled when she noticed Muchen. Her peach-like eyes were moist, and she displayed the enchanting aura that she inherited from her mother. "Little girl, did you take a liking to the boy from the Mu family?" The beautiful woman's gaze had fixated on Mu Feng ever since he entered. She gently gritted her teeth before glancing at the handsome boy beside Mu Feng. Then she directed a question to Hong Ling. "Mom, what are you saying?" Hong Ling blushed wildly as she said in embarrassment that Mu Feng isn't a good person. Thus, his son cannot certainly not be much better. "If you don't like him, then it's best not to have any dealings with him," the beautiful woman said in faint voice. A trace of resentment was slipped into her tone. "You have obtained the entry to the Myriad Phoenix Spiritual Academy, and you will have a promising future. When the time comes for you to attend, you will meet many youths that are far more outstanding than that boy from the Mu family." Hong Ling glanced strangely at her mother. She was vaguely aware of her mother's affair when she had been young. Back then, her mother seemed to have pursued Mu Feng, yet she never succeeded. In the end, her mother became too discouraged and married her father as she was disheartened. However, her father had died due to a grave injury from a battle. After all these years, her mother had maintained being single. Although time could change a lot of things, her mother still possessed a little bit of resentment towards Mu Feng. "Mom, I just want to enter Myriad Phoenix Spiritual Academy so I can train properly. As for the other affairs, we'll talk about it later," Hong Ling said in a faint voice. She glanced once more at the handsome boy beside Mu Feng, yet she had complex feelings within her heart. The beautiful woman patted Hong Ling's petite hands. Then she stared bitterly at Mu Feng, who avoided looking over to that location before retracting her gaze. "Dad, that side has been looking at you ever since you've arrived." Mu Chen was also aware of the situation over there. He gently coughed and spoke. "Shut up!" Mu Feng glanced fiercely at Mu Chen. "This boy, he really is being insensitive." Mu Chen smirked. It seems that his father was quite popular when he was young. Within the temple, other territory lords gradually arrived as time passed. Aside from them, a few well-known forces within the Northern Spiritual Realm had also arrived. As more troops arrived, the scene within the temple gradually quieted down. Then sounds of footsteps came from behind the temple. At that location, the curtains were raised and numerous figures walked out from behind it. At the same time, laughter rang out from Lu Qingtian. "Ha ha! I would like to thank everybody for giving face to my Lu territory. Since everybody has arrived, I feel extremely honored." Lu Qingtian had a big smile plastered on his face as he walked into the temple. Then he sat down on the seat of honor. Behind him, Liu Zong, Liu Ming, and Liu Mubai followed him closely. When Liu Mubai entered, his gaze fell on Mu Chen's form. A hint of coldness emerged within his eyes, and he curled his lips at Mu Chen. "Mu Chen, today this place will become the burial ground for both you and your father." Mu Chen was aware of Liu Mubai's cold gaze. He narrowed his eyes slightly as his gaze gradually turned malevolent. "No matter what your Liu territory is planning to do, I will not forgive you that easily if you dare to cause trouble for our Mu territory." Liu Mubai also understood the meaning within Mu Chen's eyes. The corner of his lips turned even colder. "By you, who do you think you are? I want to see just how pitiful you and your father will be later on." Within the temple, everybody immediately cupped their hands when Lu Qingtian appeared. Although the Northern Spiritual Realm was divided into 9 territories, everybody knew that the Liu territory was the force with the grandest background within the Northern Spiritual Realm. Moreover, they were probably the strongest force as well. Mu Feng smiled faintly at Liu Qingtian as he cupped his hands. Nobody could tell whether or not he was angry. "Oh ho ho, so Territory Lord Mu Feng also came?" "It's a pleasure." Liu Qingtian directed a smile towards Mu Feng. This smile seemed rather kind-hearted. It seemed as if he had forgotten all about the conflicts they had in the past. "Our ancestors were the ones that decided on the rules concerning the 9 territory meeting. Since the Liu territory called for a meeting, it is only natural that I would come." Mu Feng smiled and replied. Liu Qingtian nodded as he smiled. Inside the temple, the other territory lords and the leaders of the forces all held a strange expression when they saw the two rivals' attitudes toward each other. Everybody in the Northern Spiritual Realm knew that the Mu territory and Liu territory were enemies. These two territories were truly seeking to eliminate one another. Thus, this act of theirs was quite amusing. However, underneath that amusement, they felt the anxiety within their hearts slowly growing. Liu Qingtian's behavior was somewhat abnormal. Territory Lord Liu? So why did you suddenly call for a 9-territory meeting and summon all of us? Are you going to announce a major event? Tangshan asked as he smiled faintly. The atmosphere within the temple instantly grew tense. Everybody's gaze shot towards Liu Qingtian, who was at the seat of honor. It was evident that Tangshan's question was the question they all wanted to ask. Liu Qingtian stared at the nervous gazes that were projected over the room. However, he smiled and gently patted the armrest. Then he said calmly, "It's nothing much. I just have a proposal, so I wanted to seek everyone's opinion." "Oh? What's the proposal?" Tangshan smiled as he asked. Liu Qingtian smiled and said, "Everybody should know this as well. The Northern Spiritual Realm is a rather weak realm within the 100 Spirit Heavens. Therefore, we have no say in most situations. Putting it crudely, if another realm invades us in the future, the Northern Spiritual Realm won't be able to fight back. In the end, we would have to hand over our estates." The temple was completely quiet. Everybody's gaze was sparkling, yet nobody followed up to speak. It was evident that they weren't sure what Liu Qingtian was planning to do. Territory Lord Liu is probably overthinking the situation. Our Northern Spiritual Realm is located at a remote place within the 100 Spirit Heavens. Why would the other large realms take a liking to our place and spend great efforts to seize the Northern Spiritual Realm? Tangshan said jokingly. "But what if," Liu Qingtian said faintly, "if Territory Lord Liu has something to say, then just say it. Stop teasing us with platitudes." Mufeng smiled and interjected. Liu Qingtian glanced deeply at Mufeng. He lifted the corner of his lips and responded, "What I wanted to suggest is actually quite simple. The Northern Spiritual Realm does not have a position within the 100 Spirit Heavens because we are not strong enough. And we do not have the strength because the Northern Spiritual Realm is completely divided. If we unite all the forces within the Northern Spiritual Realm, we would possess some ability even within the 100 Spirit Heavens. Not only would nobody dare to invade us, we would even be able to expand our territory and obtain more resources. By then, who within the 100 Spirit Heavens would dare to underestimate our Northern Spiritual Realm?" The temple was silent. Shock flashed through numerous leaders' eyes. Liu Qingtian actually wanted to unite all the forces within the Northern Spiritual Realm? Is he crazy? How ambitious, Mu Chen mentally snorted. Could it be that Liu Qingtian was not satisfied with his own territory and wanted to become the overlord of the Northern Spiritual Realm? Mu Feng and the other territory lords had calm expressions. At the same time, the leaders from famous forces did not speak a word either. All of the people here were crafty and cunning individuals. So how is it possible for them to not detect the hidden agenda underlying Liu Qingtian's plan? I wonder what everybody thinks about my proposal. If you think that it would not work, you could care to mention it. After all, we are thinking of the entire Northern Spiritual Realm's future. Liu Qingtian did not care about the strange atmosphere within the temple as he asked this. Territory Lord Mufeng, what do you think? Liu Qingtian's gaze turned towards Mufeng as he inquired. Mufeng's eyes narrowed. He stroked the table in front of him and chuckled. I wonder how we would decide on the rules for the union. For a union like this, there should be a chieftain who controls the entire situation, right? Who would this chieftain be? Since Mufeng was able to confront Liu Qingtian without being in a disadvantageous position, he was naturally not a simple person. When this question was asked, everybody's eyes turned sharp. Who here wasn't a leader within their own territories right now? Wouldn't they be suppressed by others after the union? There is a saying that one should prefer to be the head of a dog than the tail of a lion. They do not want to turn from being the leader to someone inferior. The union is simple. We will form a Northern Spiritual Alliance. We will attack and defend together with everyone. As for the position of the chieftain, I believe that Territory Lord Mufeng is the most appropriate. Liu Qingtian smiled. At this moment, countless gazes instantly shifted towards Mufeng. However, the latter's expression did not change. He denied this claim as he shook his head. I am well aware of my abilities, and I am not capable of being the chieftain. Then Liu Zong, who was standing behind Liu Qingtian, suddenly directed a wink at a certain direction. A force from over there immediately stood up and suggested, I think the rules for the union suggested by the Liu Territory Lord may work. My White Horse clan agrees to it. As for the position of the chieftain for the Northern Spiritual Realm, I believe that Territory Lord Liu would be suitable for it. After all, everybody is aware of the Liu territory's strength. Moreover, he is quite persuasive. What do all of you think about this? Mu Feng secretly cringed and his eyes sank. The other 7 territory lords looked away and exchanged gazes with one another. Although the Lu territory was the most powerful force within the northern spiritual realm, it wasn't strong enough to suppress them all. Thus, it was impossible for them to recognize Lu Qingtian as the chieftain. Seeing none of the other territory lords follow along with that advice, the smile on Lu Qingtian's face faded away as he said faintly, "Or do you all of you believe that the Lu territory isn't prestigious enough? Territory Lord Lu, I, Li Yan, have always respected you. However, I worked hard to obtain the Lai territory. As for the Union, I am not interested in it. Therefore, if Territory Lord Lu insists on forming a Northern Spiritual Alliance, I, Li Yan, will not accompany you. I'll take my leave here." A middle-aged man suddenly stood up within the temple and cupped his head at Lu Qingtian as he spoke. "Li Yan, you dare disrespect our Liu territory?" Seeing this, Liu Ming immediately barked out in anger. Although I have always been polite to you, that does not mean that the Lai territory is afraid of you." Li Yan originally had a fiery temper. Once he heard Liu Ming's words, he immediately retorted. Then he waved his sleeves and walked away without saying another word. Seeing this, everybody within the temple began to whisper. With Li Yan as the lead, Liu Qingtian's wishful thinking had failed completely. Mu Chen glanced at Liu Qingtian. However, he noticed that the latter had a faint smile on his face. The eyes that stared at Li Yan were as vicious as a poisonous snake. "Li Yan, don't blame me for not reminding you. Once you exit this place, you won't have another chance." Liu Qingtian lowered his head and organized his sleeves as he spoke. "Ha ha ha ha. Liu Qingtian, I might be a little bit afraid of you, but you're not qualified to say those words to me." Li Yan laughed scornfully. He was at the spirit stage middle phase. Although he was weaker than Liu Qingtian, it was simply a joke if the latter thought he could suppress him like this. As his laughter faded away, he took a step out of the temple. Boom! Just when Li Yan took a step out of the temple, a deep sound rang out from the entrance of the temple. Then everybody noticed a figure flying backwards. It flew back and destroyed countless stone pillars before landing at the center of the temple. Fresh blood sprayed out from the figure when he landed. A horrified expression emerged on his face. Uproars immediately resounded out inside the temple. Numerous gazes stared in shock at Li Yan, who was awkwardly splayed across the ground. Who could have hurt Li Yan, who was at the spirit stage middle phase, in one move? Mu Chen and Mu Feng's eyes narrowed instantly. They fixated their gaze on the entrance of the temple as a hint of uneasiness filled their hearts. Liu Qingtian's face remained calm. However, a mocking smile appeared on his face. Rustle. The rustling of footsteps was heard from outside the temple. The commotion within the temple immediately quieted down. At this moment, everybody's gaze was focused at the entrance. Under everybody's gaze, a thin, old figure slowly emerged at the entrance. He wore a gray robe and had an aged face. His eyes appeared as if they had sunk in deeply, like those of a withered corpse. The gray-robed old man stood at the entrance with an expressionless face. His murky eyes slowly surveyed the people inside the temple. Then he extended a pale hand out from his robe and coughed twice. He said with a hoarse voice, "Nobody can leave here without my permission today. The ones that leave here will..." The gray-robed old man took another step forward. An extraordinary spiritual energy pressure that surpassed that of a spirit stage powerhouse emitted out from his bent body like a storm. Bang, bang, bang! The ones that were nearby could not withstand the spiritual energy pressure and shot back awkwardly. Die! Once the gray-robed old man spat out this word, the spiritual energy pressure was completely released. Cracks quickly spread out on the ground within the temple. Outside of the temple, a fierce wind blew while the clouds gathered. At the same time, the spiritual aura within the world seemed to rampage. At this moment, everybody's faces changed dramatically. Mu Feng's hand gripped the armrest tightly. He clenched his teeth and a hoarse voice exited from the gaps of his teeth. With a bit of shock, the words creeped out one after another. Liu Jingshan. 3. Heavens. Stage. That wraps up the content for today's episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the next episode. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.